college enrollment webinar. We're really excited to have you here today. And we're going to be going over tips and tricks, resources, and all things for you guys to learn about for your upcoming fall quarter enrollment. My name is John Kavolis. I'm one of your senior academic advisors here with Lauren. And I'm joined by my colleague, Assistant Dean of Academic Advising, Tracy Cruz. She's going to be going over some things later, such as GE requirements, important dates to know about. But I'm going to start this presentation off with going over some different tips and tricks and resources for your two-pass enrollment system and planning your first quarter of classes. But first of all, we'd like to do a little land acknowledgement here. The UC San Diego community holds great respect for the land and the original people of the area where our campus is located. The university was built on the unceded territory of the Kumeyaay Nation. Today, the Kumeyaay people continue to maintain their political sovereignty and cultural traditions as vital members of the San Diego community. We acknowledge their tremendous contributions to our region and thank them for their stewardship. And with that, we'll dive into our agenda. So first off, I'm going to go over some important dates with the enrollment timeline. I'll also discuss what the two-pass enrollment system is and some limitations to keep in mind with that. We'll also go over a little inspo for your first quarter schedule, how to plan out your classes for that, and a good resource to use for doing so. And then later on, we're going to discuss in more detail what your GE requirements are going to be, as well as important deadlines to keep in mind for enrolling in classes and dropping from courses. And then you'll also meet your peer advisors, who are essentially other students just like you that work here with us at Warren College. And you'll get some more student-centered, or rather advice from them from a student perspective. And then at the very end of everything, we're going to do a little Q&A. So you'll notice at the bottom menu bar, you have a chat and a Q&A feature. You can actually drop questions in that Q&A down there, and we'll try to answer them texting them to you right there during the presentation. Try to put them in the Q&A, not the chat though, because if you do it in the chat, we won't be able to respond to you directly. And any questions that we can't answer during the presentation itself, we'll just address them live at the end during the Q&A. So first off, we'll go over some important enrollment timeline dates here. Now you'll see a couple of these have actually already passed. So here on June 18th, you'll see that you actually got the opportunity to message us on the Virtual Advising Center, or VAC for short. You'll hear us talk about VAC messages a lot. Send us a VAC message if you have a question. This is essentially a way that you can send us direct messages, either us or your major advising department if you have questions about your major. And if you have any questions about your upcoming enrollment, how your transfer credit might be able to count towards your requirements, if you don't know who to ask a question to, just shoot us a question on there and we'll direct it to the correct place. And we'll also be able to answer questions that you have regarding your GE requirements. You won't be able to actually meet with us face-to-face virtually until you enroll in classes. And I know that seems kind of backwards, but this is the way that you can reach out to us right now. Any questions you have, don't hesitate to send us a bunch of VAC messages. We will address your questions via that method. And then just a few days ago, you actually got your upcoming enrollment appointment times that you can see on Triton Link and on WebReg where you'll enroll in classes. We'll show you where to find those later. That's going to be really important to know that because you're going to get 2 passes to enroll in your classes. You'll see here you have a first pass. That's going to starting on August 13th. And then on August 18th, you're going to have your second pass open up. Now, a lot of students have been wondering, what is this 2-pass system? And I know it's different compared to a lot of other universities. Maybe at many of your past community colleges, you just enrolled in all of your classes all at once. But here at UCSD, things are done a little differently. You can see here that enrollment's done in 2 passes at UCSD. It does happen every quarter, so this is a normal thing. It's not just for your first quarter right now, but you are going to have 2 opportunities to enroll in classes, your first pass and your second pass. Now, keep in mind that a full-time workload at UCSD is 12 units. Most classes are about 4 units each, so that adds up to 3 classes being a full-time course load. Now, during your first pass, you're only able to enroll in up to 11.5 units. So that keeps you just shy of that full-time three-course schedule. Essentially, what this means is you have to pick the two classes that you need the most or that you want the most in your first pass. Um, and then you have the in-demand classes, those lower div calc courses, lower div bio courses, a GE class that has an amazing professor that you know is just going to fill up. Those are the classes that you want to secure during your first pass. I know it might not seem like a big deal because you have a second pass to enroll in as well, but trust me, those popular classes are going to fill up during first pass. So make sure you prioritize those classes during first pass. When second pass comes, you'll be able to enroll in 19.5 units. So you'll be able to secure that full-time course load at that time, as well as a few more units if you want to take a little more. And you'll also be able to waitlist in courses during that time as well. So if a course fills up, a waitlist will begin for it, and you can put yourself on that waitlist. And if enough students drop the class, depending on where you are on the waitlist, then you could have a chance of being added to that class. Like I said earlier, if you don't enroll in a class during your first pass, you have to wait until second pass, which right now it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal, but trust us, classes will fill up by second pass. So you'll want to get to know what classes fill up the fastest and do those in your first pass. You'll get to know that as you spend more time here, talk with your peers, get to know just how enrollment works from doing it through experience. If you have questions about which classes do fill up fastest, though, you could direct them to us for GEs and your major advisors about major classes. I can assure you that War and Writing fills up very fast. That's one that you all have to take, War and Writing 100. That's one to definitely do in your first pass because those courses fill up very quickly. So here's a little inspo for your first quarter schedule. This is just a really basic overview of how we like students to try to plan out their coursework. I'll show you a little more detailed quarter by quarter plan on the next slide, but just keep in mind that we like students to balance out their major requirements along with a combination of GE and university or elective courses. Um, if you're looking at the schedule of classes, it might look like a lot of your major courses have already filled up, but don't worry, a lot of the departments have actually saved seats for transfer students. So even though they might look like they're full, many of them aren't, and you'll still have the chance to get into many of your major required classes. Most students will end up taking about like two or possibly more major classes each quarter, and then balancing the remaining of their coursework out with college GE requirements or university and elective courses if those are needed. Looking on the next slide here, we'll check out a quarter by quarter plan that really gives a good example of this. So this is a transfer economics major, and looking at their first fall quarter here for 2025, we can see that they're suggested to take two major classes for economics, these upper div econ courses, and then our War and Writing class, WCWP 100 for transfer students. This student's very lucky. They only are recommended to take three classes. That's like a great schedule that we recommend for students to do in their first quarter. If you're able to only take three classes, go for it. That's a really great way to transition into the more fast-paced quarter system. A lot of you will find that you might have to do four classes in your first quarter, though. That's okay. If you're able to do three, that's fantastic, but four is all right too. We can see here in future quarters for this student, they do have to do four classes per quarter, but we can see they're very nicely balanced out with two major courses, and then in this case, two elective classes, or their War and GE, DEI overlap, and an elective class to balance everything out. You all can actually get access to this document tailored to your major too. If you use this URL here, just type in plans.ucsd.edu and follow the prompts that you're given, you'll be presented with an exact quarter by quarter plan just like this tailored for your major. It'll show you all of your major requirements and GEs that you have to do. But keep in mind that these plans aren't specific just to you. They don't take into account all the transfer credit that you have, and they assume that you've completed IGETC certification before coming here. Depending on how many transfer units you have, you might not need to take as many of these electives. These are just extra courses to meet the total units to graduate. So later on, you don't really need to worry about this right now. Just focus on enrolling in your first fall quarter. But once you're all settled in, you're used to your classes, you found your way around campus, and you're ready to do a little more long-term planning, you can meet with us during drop-ins, and we can ensure that be taking the right amount of electives to meet that total units of graduation. Now with that, I'm gonna pass it off to Tracy, who's going to do a little deep dive over the GE overview here.
Thanks so much, John. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. I'm going to talk about your general education requirements at Warren College. We're going to start off on the left-hand side of this slide, talk a little bit about IGETC, UC Reciprocity, and the Verified Transfer Program. So before we actually talk about the GEs, I just want to give a little bit of information about those specific transfer programs. So basically, it is meaning that you've completed your lower division GE requirements at your previous institution. So for IGETC students, this means you would need to ask your community college to submit your IGETC certificate to UCSD admissions. Unfortunately, a notation on your official transcript won't suffice. So admissions actually needs that IGETC certificate. If a student is missing a maximum of 2 classes for your IGETC, you can ask your community college to write Warren advising a letter explaining and verifying what those courses are and what areas they're for. And then we'll allow you to take those 1 or 2 missing courses for your IGETC at UC San Diego, along with those courses listed below, which are Warren Writing 100 and the upper division non-contiguous. UC reciprocity is a term that we use for students who are transferring from another UC. So that means that student has completed all of the lower division requirements at that school, and they should have their advisor send a letter that states that. Again, if that UC reciprocity student is missing 1 or 2 classes, please have your advisor write that in the letter, and then you can take those courses at UC San Diego. That also means you would have the remaining courses of Warren Writing 100 and the upper division non-contiguous. Lastly, the Verified Transfer Program. It's similar to the other 2 I was just speaking about, but it is basically, they're not a California community college or they're not a UC. So now that I've gone over the types of transfers students we have, let's talk a little bit. Oh, sorry, John, go back. Let's talk about the specific courses. So WCWP is our Warren College Writing Program 100. It is our upper division academic writing course. So that is definitely a class you'll need to take. And as John said, you're definitely going to want to first pass that because the courses are small. And they won't be having open space for them because of the size of the classroom. UDNC, or what we call our upper division non-contiguous, it is an upper division class, 4 units that is outside your major discipline. So for example, if you're a bio major, you'll choose a class that is in the humanities and fine arts or in the social sciences. I'm just going to put in the chat really quickly some links. I know John has been doing that. Oh, actually, John already did that. So thank you so much, John. So on the other side of this slide, we see without IGETC or UC reciprocity. So basically that means that the Warren advisor will review a student's academic history and transcript to check for the course breadth that they've taken at their previous institution. So depending on what admission receives, reviews, and uploads your transcripts, it could take several weeks for us to do that. But again, we thank you for your patience because it does take a while to review all of that. Again, this is if you don't have IGETC or not UC reciprocity. So specifically, those GEs are going to be the Warren Writing 100, which we just went over. And this also includes 2 formal skills. So the 2 formal skills are math, computer programming, or logic course. These courses, maybe you may have taken them already. So at your previous institution, and if that's the case, then those courses that you've taken can count for formal skills at UCSD. The other 2 GEs are your programs of concentration and area studies. So I'm going to kind of give a little bit of detail about these specific, but programs of concentration, or what we call PFCs, are GEs for non-engineering majors. So basically a student chooses a program of concentration in the disciplines outside their major. So if you're a history major, you're going to choose a social science program of concentration, for example, maybe psychology, economics, or urban studies and planning. And then they're going to choose a math and science program of concentration. So that could be cognitive science or biology, etc. So that kind of gives you an idea of what a program of concentration is. For all of you that are engineering majors, you all will choose an area study, and you'll choose one within the humanities and fine arts. So that again could be like history, visual arts, philosophy, and the other is going to be within the social sciences. And that, like I gave the other examples like psychology, economics, or USP. A way to check if this is currently showing up for you is you can check your degree audit, and that is located in Triton Link Tools to see what your transfer program is. I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the chat for you all so you can take a look at it, check your degree audit. And it's going to be located under the college section of your audit. If you have any questions, feel free to email us. But this is basically the GEs you'll have as IGETC or non-IGETC or without UC reciprocity. Alrighty, I'm going to talk a little bit about university requirements. So this is different from your major requirements and your college GE. So first off, we have our entry-level writing requirement, or ELWR. As you can see, this is going to be completed by your test scores or the college writing course or the writing placement process. For most of you all, you've already completed this at your previous institution. So on your degree audit or your academic history, it will show as complete. Next, we have our American History Institutions, or what we call AHI. This is required knowledge of American history and of the principle of American institutions. So some students will have taken a U.S. history course in community college or at their other institution. Otherwise, another way to have this completed is through high school courses that they've taken. And you can send that information specifically to us at warrenadvising@ucsc.edu, or you can send it to admissions to have that waived. I do want to point out that for international students with F1 or J1 visas, you do not need to complete this requirement because you're not a permanent or a permanent resident or US citizen. So that's something we do waive at the time of graduation. Lastly, we have our diversity, equity, and inclusion requirement. This is our DEI. It is for all UC San Diego students. So students can check the DEI approved list. They create one quarterly. And the great thing about this requirement is that it can be overlapped with your major and your college GE. So it's not an extra course. It is a course that can definitely be overlapped or triple lapped, or however, whatever you find within your major, maybe your minor and or college GE again. So what we have next is how to locate WebReg, and we're going to go a little bit into about how to find, if you have not already found your enrollment appointment time. So we're looking at a student's Triton link. So when you go to classes and enrollment, you're going to go down to the WebReg drop down, and you're going to click on there. Thank you. And this is not going to bring up to the actual like WebReg page, and you're going to be able to find your course enrollment. You're going to look up your term, and that's going to be fall 25. So once you're on fall 25, you're going to click on your appointment time, which you can see in that arrow. and then it will tell you what your first pass is. It gives you a time frame. So my understanding is it's 24 hours. So you will have, so this person's, it is, oh my gosh, it's so small. So I think it says May 23rd to maybe May 25th. So it'll have a start date and an end date, and then there'll be time in between your first and second pass. So like John was saying earlier, please make sure you are ready to go maybe a few minutes before your enrollment appointment time, and be able to log in so you can add those courses. And of course, make sure you set reminders for yourself, whether that's on your phone, on your laptop, or you have an actual paper planner. Just set yourself a reminder for that. All right, so we have some important deadlines. So one of the things you're seeing here are actual like the wait list, official end date, and some add and drop dates. So this is all for fall quarter. Something you are gonna get used to is the quarter system. Just to tell you really quick, there's 10 weeks in a quarter. And after week 10, week 11 is final. So things are going to go week 1, week 2, and so on, and it'll go fairly quickly. But as a reminder, one of the things we say in terms of deadlines is weeks 2, 4, and 6 are usually the big deadlines. Week 2, Friday of week 2 is the deadline to add a class. So week 4, Friday of week 4 is the deadline to drop without a W. So that is that October 24th deadline. And that is also, I believe, the deadline to, nope, that's week 6. So Friday of week 6, which is November the 7th, is the deadline to change your units and change your grading options and to drop a course with the W. Something that's actually not listed on the important deadlines that I wanted you all to know is the first day of classes is Thursday, September 25th. So just mark your calendars. Thursday, September 25th is the first day of classes. So you should be ready to go on that day. I'm actually going to put in the chat the academic calendar. So make sure you save that. That's going to have all these important dates and then some other dates alongside, I believe maybe some billing dates as well. So we have some really awesome peer advisors. So we have Kimberly, Esther, and Pauline, who are actually going into their senior year, and they have given some awesome tips. I'm actually going to put in the chat right now the links. Esther and Pauline gave some great links, and I want to put that before I forget. But Kimberly says, think about your preferences, commitments, and habits. Like if you don't want to feel too overwhelmed your first quarter, take a mix of classes. Also, it is okay to take 12 units if they're able to take only 3 classes. I didn't know that was a possibility for me as a freshman. Esther writes, always have backup courses in case you don't get into courses you need or wanted to take. Also have an idea of how courses fill up during first and second passes so you can plan accordingly of what you'll prioritize. I like to use the student-made site to see how fast courses filled up in the past. And I actually put that link in the chat. And lastly, we have Pauline. She says, I definitely recommend looking how much time it'll take to get from one class to another, as people often underestimate how big campus is. Oftentimes, there's only a 10-minute block between classes. It can make a difference. And then I also put that, that link of Pauline's as well for all of you. All right, so that actually concludes the presentation portion of the webinar. We have put in quite a few links in the chat, so please feel free to copy those for later, put them, you know, for whenever you need them. I'm checking the Q&A. I don't see anything currently, but please feel free to put your questions in the Q&A feature so we can answer them for you. We can either, and we have other advisors here. So if you put them, again, in the Q&A feature, we can either type them or we can answer them live. So yeah.
It looks like we have a question in the chat right now. I could address this one. It looks like you said all four-unit classes I'm planning to take this fall are waitlisted. Since I can't register for any of them in the first pass, and the waitlist doesn't open a second pass, do I have to wait until second pass? Tracy, correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I think that that might be an opportunity where like seats could open up for transfer students. The,
Yeah,
oh,
that's
did you say something there?
yeah. That's a great question. So, so actually, I'm just going to take a moment. Hey, y'all, just because let's put all of our questions in the Q&A feature, just so we can keep track of all of the questions. We're going to keep the chat specifically for us giving you links. But just to address what John was just saying, the major departments are saving seats. So what that means is currently when you're looking at the schedule of classes or WebReg, you may see some classes are full and waitlisted. However, the departments are saving a specific number of seats for all of you incoming students. I will say, however, that doesn't guarantee, unfortunately, you're going to get that open seat because it does depend on your enrollment appointment time. So if you have it, 8 a.m. or whatever the first one is, you might have a better opportunity than a peer who maybe has at 2 p.m. It just really depends. So, so that definitely is going to be helpful. So again, major departments are holding seats for you all. It is not guaranteed to get that, but you're definitely going to want to have some backups.
Thanks for answering that part of it, Tracy. And also to like piggyback onto that, with like planning your classes, let's say hypothetically, if even with those extra seats, the class is full, there's a chance that could happen where maybe your classes just might fill up. You might not be able to enroll in the specific classes that you want. A trick that you can do is I'm going to go back to this quarter by quarter plan we looked at earlier just to reference this. Let's say hypothetically you're trying to get into Word Writing 100. That's a class that fills up really quickly. There's a chance that a lot of incoming students might not be able to take that in fall. If that happens, you can pull classes that you're planning in a future quarter and just sub them in for your first fall quarter. For example, this student, they've got a lot of upcoming electives or their upper-div non-contiguous DEI overlap. You can pull those back in here instead of Word Writing 100 and then plan to take that in a future quarter. You can do that with major requirements if you want. Like we said, though, it's good to not like, overdo it with the major courses. Try to pull like GEs and electives to balance out your schedule as much as you can. And if you really have any struggles with that, if it just ends up being a really like wonky quarter or something, after you enroll in classes, even just one, you can come meet with us and your major advisors. So at that time, we can help you to try to craft your quarter a little better.